Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm your host Christian, and you're listening to the Game Fluff Podcast. So today's Game Fluff is Let's Gush about Guilty Gear Strive. Guilty Gear Strive is finally here, and it's been out for about 3 weeks at the time of this recording. And I gotta say, I am extremely happy with how it turned out. Because Guilty Gear, the franchise, is probably one of my favorite, at least Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2, is my favorite fighting game of all time. So I was really hoping that Strive was going to be good. And, you know, they had a lot of changes. It's basically a new series, basically. Or it's just a brand new fighting game. And I was really worried because I played first the open beta as well as the second beta. And it was problematic. They had a lot of issues. And it was not looking good. But then, you know, Strive came out and it was great. Like, they actually listened to our concerns. They actually made adjustments. They made changes. And I don't know what those two open betas did for them, but like, I'm really glad they happened. But before we dive into the topic more, let's talk about how you, the listener, can support the show. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you'll be notified when a new episode comes out. If you're listening to this on a podcasting platform, also be sure to subscribe so that you'll know when a new episode comes out as well. So with that out of the way, let's get into the main topic. Let's gush about Guilty Gear Strive. So first, you're sitting there, you might be wondering, what even is Guilty Gear Strive? So Guilty Gear Strive is, I believe they call it a 2.5D fighting game. So it's a fighting game where, well, I mean, you fight. I know, it's a terrible explanation, but it's a fighting game that is honestly ridiculously awesome. It's really fun to play, and I'm not alone in that, because there are a lot of people right now, like, not just like veteran fighting game players, but like even casuals, a lot of them are actually playing Strive and enjoying it a lot. If you haven't heard about it, I think you should. If you're even remotely interested in fighting games, you should definitely look it up, because this is definitely a very good fighting game for both new players as well as veteran players. And it caters more to casuals, if I'm being honest, but there is also a lot of stuff there for the veterans as well. So yeah, I'm not going to go... I was thinking of like doing like a big speech, I guess, or a summary of it, but I can't really summarize it. It's really difficult to talk about like what is Guilty Gear Strive if I go into like who Soul Bad Guy is and all that. So you're just going to have to do research into it, but just take my word for it that it is a ridiculously good fighting game. It's very solid and it's very fun for, I feel, everyone. But let's talk more importantly about what I love about Strive. And this is pretty much the bulk of the episode, right? I'm basically just going to tell you every single thing, or a lot of things at least, that I can think of and that I love about Strive and what it does. So first, I think we got to talk about the fighting gameplay, right? That's probably one of the most important things of fighting games. It's how good is the fighting, right? Is it great? You know, how does it feel? All that type of stuff. And there's like two major points I want to get into when it comes to the fighting mechanics or the fighting gameplay itself. So number one, the game is easy to get into. It is very easy to get into, in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like, for example, like Super Smash Brothers, like that level of easy to get into. Like, you can pick up anyone and just throw them into a Smash Brothers game. They can probably do like some cool stuff. You know, Guilty Gear Strive, yeah, you have to learn some things, but it's really not that much when compared to the rest. But also, and this is probably the most important thing, is that it just feels good. And, you know, maybe this is because I played the first two open betas, right? So comparing the finished product of Strive to the first open betas, like, it's like, it is ridiculous how good the final product is compared to the open betas. Like, in the second open beta, jumping was like trash. Like, back air dashing was terrible. You know, in the first open beta, anti-airs were basically useless. Like, people just jumped around everywhere because they could. And, like, the damage was so off the charts that, like, there was, like, no reason to play Chip. Because you would just explode if you just got touched. I mean, he still gets hit a lot now, but like at least he can kind of survive a hit, you know? At least you have to do like 2 hits. Whereas before, like you pretty much got one and he was basically near death. But yeah, like the gameplay is just honestly just feels good. Like when you punch something, like if you play a sole bad guy who's like the main character, right? When you punch, you really feel the punch. And that feedback is what makes the game so addicting. Because like you see your damage actually do damage. The damage is high in this game. And some people won't like that, right? I personally do, because it lets it so that when you do like those little combos, you actually feel like you're doing work. Don't get me wrong, I think if you do a big combo, and they do exist in this game by the way, high damaging combos that are difficult to pull off, those do exist, and they will take off like 70% of your health bar. But just a generic, low combo, it will do like at least like 25%, at least, for the most part. Like just your generic standard, combo, that's pretty easy. And I think that's great, especially for casuals. And for me, so I guess I gotta talk about me, right, for a little bit, just so that you understand, like, the perspective that I come from, right? So I am, I think I mentioned it in the beginning, that I love Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2. It's my favorite fighting game of all time. So, like, I'm coming in this through the eyes of someone that has played the previous title. Now, I know what you're thinking, because a lot of people who were like, Guilty Gear OGs, like they were trashing this game because they're like, oh, it's simplified, it's terrible, it sucks, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I'll agree on some points, right? There are some things in Strive that I wasn't exactly a fan of. I didn't like the Gatling system change. However, I have played it now, and I think all in all, it flows together pretty well. And people also forget that like Xrd Rev 2, because I'm talking specifically about Xrd Rev 2 because that's the one I'm more familiar with. It's the one that I played the most of. Like I didn't get into the XX series, which is the series before the Sign and Revelator series, right? Like people forget that Rev 2 had some dumb stuff too, though. Like there was like Danger Time, I think is what it's called, if I recall correctly. Like that was dumb. So what Danger Time was when you hit each other at the same time, there was a random chance, keep in mind, a random chance that it would just make it into Danger Time. And during that time, basically whoever got the hit was going to win. Because you just took a lot of damage. I think there was I'm pretty sure it was increased damage, increased hit stun. Like, it was just bad, alright? There were certain characters that they basically never wanted to see Danger Time because they would just die. Because the Danger Time was just that disadvantageous to them. Plus, it's just random, which is dumb. See, that's what I'm talking about. So, for those people, if you're an OG Guilty Gear player, and you're listening to this, I hope I don't piss you off. But also, I want you to look at Strive. It'd be nice if you could look at Strive and not just judge it for being super terrible, just because it's different. It is different, but it's not bad different. Overall, I think it's good. But I think it's a good moment to go into why I think it's actually good for the fighting. And it's mainly the Roman cancels. So this is something that people who have played Revelator will be familiar with, and it's the Roman cancel system. So what Roman cancel is, for those of you that don't know, because, I don't know, maybe you haven't heard about Guilty Gear, the Roman cancel, basically what it does is, it basically freezes time. So you spend a bar of your meter, and you basically freeze time, and you reset yourself. So if I'm in the middle of a punch, I can Roman cancel, and then instead of having the recovery of that punch, I'll be reset to 0. And I can just do another move. Or I can move, or jump, or whatever. This game, you'll probably hear everyone talk about it. Any pro player will probably talk about it. But the Roman cancels in this game are freaking ridiculous. In the sense that they're amazing, and they're extremely streamlined, and easy to understand, and they're awesome. It's honestly, it's godlike, The Roman cancels in this game are actually really great. And it's because it adds depth. So, I was watching, so if you don't know, there's a YouTuber called Maximilian Dude. And he's a fighting game YouTuber, right? He talks about fighting games all the time and stuff, and that's his main thing. I suggest you check him out if you're interested in fighting games, because he's really good. But he made a video, and I think it was like Real Talk. It was like something. It was called like Real Talk Casual Players, and something to do with Guilty Gear Strive. But basically, he's talking about casual players in Guilty Gear Strive, and one of the things he mentions about the Roman cancel system is he says it's simplified but expanded upon, and he's basically referring to the Roman cancel system. Because yes, like I said, this game is easy to get into, right? It's simple and it feels good, right? The damage is there, the feedback is there, it feels good to play. But the Roman cancel system adds the necessary depth to it for the players who are more advanced. So for me, I consider myself an intermediate character. Or not an intermediate character, but an intermediate player, right? So to give you an idea of like, I don't know, how good I am at Strive, I've been able to make it up to the 10th floor. I'm pretty much in the 9th floor though. Like I usually will stay in the 9th floor. My main is Faust. So maybe that's, so if you don't know, Faust is apparently the worst character. A lot of people are saying he's the worst character in the game right now. I think he's got some issues too. and I think he needs some buffs. He needs a little love, but that's not the point. The point is that I was able to get to 9. That's usually where I float around. I'm usually like on the 9th floor. Casual players in this game are generally the 5th floor and below. So I consider myself an intermediate player, because if I was an advanced player, I'd be consistently at 10. But for now, at least within the first 3 weeks, I am consistently around 9, sometimes dropping to 8 if I fight like a lot of like crazy, I don't know, Milia players and stuff, and chip players, you know, they're really difficult for Faust to deal with. But generally speaking, I'm around 9, okay? So you can see like what I'm talking about. So like the Roman cancel is designed for people like me and above, right? If you're casual, you know what? You probably won't even use it. That's why characters like Giovanna was created. Because like if you just have meter, you just get buffs, right? If you have 1 bar, I believe she gets like an attack and a damage reduction. And then if you get 2 bars, she gets an even higher attack and damage reduction. So like those like that character was created for you casual people. Right? Because you just generally don't you just generally don't use your bar, you know? But like for us, like who are higher, like we need something else, right? And there's one thing I want to touch upon, and it's the fact that a lot of people, when they were talking about this game, a lot of them were saying that this is basically the Street Fighter V effect, right? Guilty Gear Strive is basically doing the same things as Street Fighter V. And, you know, I gotta be honest, I agreed, right? There were a lot of things. So if you don't know the history of Street Fighter V, so Street Fighter 4 came out, right? And they had like a bunch of stuff like Arcade Edition, and I think the last one was like Ultra Street Fighter 4. And then eventually it came out to be Street Fighter V. Now for a little bit of history for me, Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition was my first like real fighting game. Like, yeah, as a kid, I played like Super Smash Brothers Melee, you know, Super Smash Brothers N64, you know, Brawl. But like, I didn't really get into an actual fighting game until Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. That was like my first real venture into the fighting game scene. And so, for me, I loved Street Fighter 4 a lot. There was a lot of things I loved about it. It was fun, in depth, and it was my first one, so it's nostalgic for me as well. So when Street Fighter V came out, they announced a lot of things that in theory I liked. And if you know the history of Guilty Gear Strive, the development of it, it sounds very similar, which was scary when the first open beta came out, because then I got to experience the direction that they took. So first of all, like Street Fighter V, they basically said, you know, we're going to make it easier, right? We're going to make it easier. It's going to be more simplified. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. And so when it did come out, it was exactly that, but it was bad. Because so if you were casual, it was great, right? You were having the time of your life. But when they did that, they basically left behind all of the other players like me and above, right? All the intermediate players and all the advanced players, so like the pros, right? Like we all got left in the dust because things just weren't there. So things like, I believe in vanilla, which is like the original base form of the game. So in vanilla Street Fighter V, I believe like one link frames or one link combos just weren't a thing anymore, which means like, it was just easier to do combos. When you watch the game, it was extremely boring for me. I remember trying to watch Street Fighter V vanilla specifically, right? And just watching them be like, wow, this is ridiculously boring to watch. Because everyone knew the optimal combos because they were so easy, and everyone just did the optimal combos because they were easy. And then there was the V-trigger system, which honestly just didn't make it better. And this is where, like, Guilty Gear Strive differentiated itself from Street Fighter V. Guilty Gear Strive has the Roman cancel system, and because the Roman cancel system is so in-depth in the way that you can do things with it, it blasts Street Fighter V out of the waters. Like, it basically makes it so that, like, it won't have the same issue that Street Fighter V did. Now, to be fair, right, Street Fighter V was released years ago. Guilty Gear Strive is released now. So yes, it was able to basically learn from Street Fighter V. And that's good. And also, I don't want people thinking I'm trashing Street Fighter V, because I think now, in the current state that it is, I think it's now pretty okay. Like, there were a couple cool characters. Like, I know they added Dan. He was funny as heck. He had like an infinite combo, and that was funny, right? Rose looks awesome, right? She looks very interesting to play. So I think Street Fighter V is good now. But we're talking about Strive, right? And the Roman cancels, so that was a long tangent. But the Roman cancels, so they add a lot of depth, right? And they expand, and that's mainly for us, right? For us intermediate and above players. Because now we can do things in Guilty Gear Strive that set us apart from others. Like, I've been playing a lot of Strive, and I've also been watching a lot of Strive from the pro scene, like Kazunoko and Nage. I have to watch Nage because he's like the Faust of the world, Like, he's the guy that you watch if you want to learn how to play Faust. And I now watch Kazunoko because Kazunoko's like my favorite fighting game player of all time. But like, I've been watching a lot of like these pro players play, and the thing about fighting games that I love to see is when I can tell your style of gameplay, even if you're using the same character. And that's something that I loved, and a lot of people remember, was Street Fighter 4 was great for this. Street Fighter 4 had a lot of that too. There's like, for example, the Sako combo. That's because it's called a Sako is it Sako? Sako? It's Sako. Okay, I'm going to call him Sako. It's called the Sako combo because there was a pro player called Sako who created basically his own combos because they were extremely difficult to do, and he was pretty much the only one that could do it. And so when you saw the Sako combo, it was basically him because he was the only one that could pretty much do it because it was just that difficult to do. And it was awesome to watch. And Strive is kind of going in that direction where, because of the Roman cancel system, you can pretty much do whatever you want with the characters. So there's 4 different Roman cancels, right? There's the yellow Roman cancel, the blue Roman cancel, the red Roman cancel, and the purple Roman cancel. And each Roman cancel basically activates based on when you do it. So for the yellow one, that's your defensive mechanic, right? So when you're getting hit, if you block it, you can use the yellow Roman cancel, by spending a bar. And then you can you just reset the thing. So if they keep attacking you and you're like in danger, you can just yellow Roman cancel, and you can basically just make it so that you won't be in danger anymore. And that's great. The red Roman cancel is your combo extenders. So when you're in the middle of a combo, you can just do for example, slash into heavy slash, and then you can red Roman cancel, right? And then from there, then you can expand upon that combo and get extra damage. The purple Roman cancel lets you negate basically recovery. So if you do this big swinging move, so recovery is when you do the move, and then afterwards you have to recover and then wait till you get back into your neutral position, right? Well, purple cancel doesn't care about that, right? If you purple Roman cancel that, basically you do your big move, you purple Roman cancel, and then bam, you're back to 0 frames, which means you can just do whatever you want again. You can just jump, you can go over there, run over to them, you can do another attack, whatever. And then there's blue, which is used when you're neutral. So when you're not being attacked, when you're not attacking, when you're not recovering. And basically it just slows everything down. And it's usually used preemptively. So like if you see the guy like running towards you, you can blue Roman cancel. And you can see kind of what they're doing. Like you slow him down, you see what they're doing. Oh, maybe he's going for an overhead, or maybe he's going for a low. If he goes for a low, okay, maybe you'll use that time where they're slowed to jump over them. There's a lot of ways you can use that. Now, I haven't seen a lot of people use blue Roman cancels yet, and I think it's being slept on. But like, to be fair, like everyone wants the red Roman cancel because they want more damage. So why did I explain all of the different types of Roman cancels to you? Because they're important. Because I gave you 4 different ways to use Roman cancels, the 4 ways to use them. But you only have 2 bars, or maybe you only have the 1 bar to spend it on. But how you spend it is different for you as a person as well as your character. Like as a Faust main, I find that I use a lot of yellow Roman cancels, because usually if I'm in the corner, I'm screwed. So I have to yellow Roman cancel, get myself out of there safely, right? I also will use a lot of purple ones, especially when I teleport, because that cancels my movement and allows me to teleport. I can purple Roman cancel, and then I can basically go back to 0 frames and I can attack right away. It gives me like an instant teleport option. And I use red if I need that little bit of extra damage. That's cool. But the thing is that I told you how I use it. But I've seen other people use it differently. Right? Like I have a friend who plays this game who plays Chip. He constantly uses red Roman cancels like for days. I barely ever see him use a yellow Roman cancel because he wants to save that to get extra damage down the line. And again, like it's expanded, right? Like just what Maximilian dude said. It's simplified, but it's expanded. Everyone can do a Roman cancel. But because there's so many options and the ways that you can use the Roman cancel is so great, like you can play the game pretty much the way you want. And the best part about Guilty Gear Strive, which I was really worried about initially, is that will the games ever feel the same? And when I play Guilty Gear Strive, I don't feel that way. Because of the Roman cancel system and the way that everyone uses it, I fought people who spam the heck out of yellow Roman cancels. Like they save it for defensive. And then I've also found people who just use it on like every time they want to recover for the purple Roman cancels. And I've seen people who use it when they're trying to do big damages because soul players are crazy, But that's my point. You can do so much with it. That was a long time talking about Roman cancels, but like there's a big reason why I'm talking about it for so long. And that's because it is really that important to the game. It's really what sets Guilty Gear Strive apart from all these other fighting games. The Roman cancel basically makes Guilty Gear Strive go from a good game into an amazing game. And it's something I hope that if you haven't played Guilty Gear Strive, you dive into, because it honestly feels great when you can utilize Roman cancels very nicely. All right, so let's talk about other things, because I can't just keep talking about Roman cancels all day. So missions. Missions are basically like little tutorial sections that Guilty Gear Strive provides you, and it helps you to teach you how to play fighting games as well as teach you the specific mechanics of Guilty Gear Strive. I personally love the missions. There's the only issue I have with missions is that I think they need to have character combos, like usable character combos for each character. It'd be nice if there was just like a drop down list and like every character had like their own set of combos that they can do, kind of like in Exit Rev 2. That's my only complaint about it, but like other than that, like it seems pretty great. Now I know people are gonna be like, okay, well it's kind of tedious in the beginning, like in the very first stage, like it's like how to move forward, and you got to move forward like 5 times, because how they do it is that there's 5 stars. So when you do it right, you get a star. You do it wrong, you get an X. What's great about the missions is that it won't let you succeed until you get 3 stars, because it basically wants to make sure that you kind of understand that you didn't just do it on a fluke and you're like, oh, I did it once, yay, I'm a master. No, they're like, no, but could you do it 3 times? Because if you can do it at least 3 times, then that means that you actually kind of understand what's going on here. So there's a lot of good things that I like about that. Now, don't get me wrong, yes, Like, do I need to jump 5 times? Right? Like, no, I don't. But if this is like your very first fighting game, then yes, you do. Right? And that sounds ridiculous if you're even remotely experienced with fighting games. But again, Guilty Gear Strive was created with casuals and new players in mind. So yes, this makes perfect sense. I blast through that content, no problem. But then, like, I go to the next level, and it starts to explain more stuff. And that's what's great with the missions, is that there is, like, beginner stuff, and it goes all the way up to, like, pro tips. To do a pro tip, for example, it's a Kara grab. What's a Kara grab? I honestly can't really explain it, because I'm not good enough to pull off a Kara grab. But basically, I'll do my best. A Kara grab is, like, a super advanced technique where, basically, you do a move. So, like, for Potemkin, because it's Potemkin, because he needs to do it. It's where you do a move. I believe it's like his forward. It's like a command normal that he has, where it'll take him forward a bit. So he basically does that, and basically you cancel it very quickly into his command throw. Now, why is a Kara grab important? Because it's kind of like, I want to say it's kind of like fencing, like in real life. Like in fencing, like 1 inch makes a difference, because that 1 inch is like the gap that you can close to hit your opponent or to step back and evade your opponent. Like, those close calls in a high level fight matter. And so when you're a pro, at the casual levels, it won't matter. You're Potemkin, you're huge, everyone's scared of you anyways, you can probably just do your command grab, no problem, right? But if you are a pro, we actually know how to, well, not we, I'm not a pro, but they actually know how to space themselves correctly. So you will need to do those Kara grabs. You will need to sometimes close that distance a little bit, because doing a Kara grab by canceling a move into your grab is a lot faster than you trying to slowly walk over there. Because again, those little times and moments, that little second matters. So there's like advanced stuff like that. And then there's like super basic stuff like, how to walk forward, how to do quarter circle forward movements, right? How to do a special command or special moves, right? For me, like, I like the one where it says how to do wake up attacks, like how to do a wake up reversal, because the timing is actually pretty tight if the person that is doing the media on you, which basically means they're going to hit you as soon as you get up. If they're really good at it, like, you only have like a split second to actually do your invincible reversal attack. So the missions, yeah, I like them. There are very easy ones, and there are very complex ones. And like, I got some good stuff out of it. But also, that's the section where you'll have them explain things too, like what, like the Roman cancels, right? Talking about Roman cancels again. But yeah, like, they talk about Roman cancels, like what are the different types and how to use them, right? And again, you do it like up to 5 times and you learn it. So, solid stuff. I really do enjoy the missions. But let's talk about characters. Here's the thing about characters, especially for Guilty Gear Strive. So, I will say that Guilty Gear as a series has always had interesting characters. A nice, diverse cast. They kind of just go ham, honestly, with a lot of their characters. I've told my friend this before, but I said, Guilty Gear Strive, not Guilty Gear Strive, Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2, which was the previous title to Guilty Gear Strive, I said that has the best fighting game cast of any fighting game. Like, in terms of the uniqueness, and in terms of, like, how many, like, different archetypes that they were able to cover. And as well as, like, just, it's just a strong, solid cast. And that's also unique. The only other one that I would say that would probably go up there is probably Skullgirls, because Skullgirls is also like that. And this is the main point I want to hit on. What like Guilty Gear Strive does, and this is what Skullgirls does as well, it's quality over quantity. Because I saw a lot of complaints because there's only 15 characters in the base game. Now, if you're a new player, you won't know if that's a lot. But if you're a veteran player, you'll know that that's actually not that much compared to other fighting games. Like, I don't know, like Mortal Kombat, I think. Mortal Kombat 11 when it came out. I want to say it had like at least like 20. I know it has for sure more than 15. But I want to say like 20 at least. Tekken 7, my god, had like a bajillion. But this is why I'm saying it's quality over quantity. Because yes, let's use Tekken 7 as an example. I play Tekken 7. I love Tekken 7. But I absolutely hate, like, how, like, inconsequential. Is it inconsequential? I don't know. Like, the character diversity is terrible in that game. All right. Now, people, like, if you're Tekken 7 fans, you're going to come at me. You're going to tell me how much you hate me or whatever. I don't care. Look, I love Tekken 7. I love the gameplay. There are a lot of characters in that game that I think are unique, but there is also a lot of characters in that game that kind of feel the same. Like, they're not really differentiated enough. And I'm talking from, like, a more casual viewpoint, right? If you're talking about the pro level, you can always say that. You can always say there are differences, because you'd be like, well, this guy's jab is like 8 frames, and this guy's jab is like 9 frames, you know? That's the difference. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of lame. I'm talking about, like, how the character actually functions and plays. Because, yes, there are some characters that are, you know, largely different from each other. Like, Asuka is more defensive, right? She just naturally is. She's not very offensive. Whereas, like, Josie is super offensive. But, you know, my point is that there's just so many that it just feels bloated, and the characters just don't feel like they really matter. Whereas in Strive, that is not the case. Every single character in this game feels honestly uniquely their own. And I'll be honest, you know, I was very mad in the first open beta, because I was playing it and I was like, why would you play Chip or Millie, like Chip over Milia or Milia over Chip? Because they feel the same. They're just fast. They jump in and they just do their little damages, you know, and that's it. And then, like, when they added Giovanna, like, I love Giovanna's design, because, like, I'm a sucker for that type of design. Like, I love suspenders and stuff. But, like, she was a rushdown character, and I was like, we have a lot of rushdown characters in this game already. We have Milia, we have Chip. I would argue even Soul is like a rushdown character. And it's just like, do we really need another one? So for me, I was really angry about that, right? But then, and you know what? This is the importance of character uniqueness. When the second open beta came out, Anji and Ino were added to the game, because they were not in the open beta in the first one. So in the first one, we only had 13 characters. In the second one, we had the full cast, which is 15 characters. And it's amazing how much of a difference 2 characters can make to a cast. Because as soon as Ino and Anji came in, I was like, all right, this is solid now. This is a pretty nice cast. Like, there's enough characters in the game that they kind of cover most of the archetypes. Because you've got, like, your zoners, like Faust and Axel. You've got your grappler, Potemkin, right? You've got your, you know, Shotos, you know, Shoto type people, jack of all trades guys like Kai, right? You have your Rushdown, Giovanna, Chip, Milia. Too many Rushdowns still, but, you know. The thing is, even though they're the same archetype, when Ino added, now it made it different, so that the ways that they do the Rushdown is different. Like Giovanna, it looks like Giovanna relies a lot on pressure and plus frames. That's the way that it looks like she's going. Chip, it's overwhelming speed, right? Just speed, speed, speed. That's all he is. He goes in, he's got like crazy cross-ups, he's got like overheads, he's got lows, he's got rekkas, he's got basically everything in the toolbox, you know? But like, he'll die in a second, right? Milia, kind of the same thing. She's the only character in the game, I believe. I'm pretty sure she's the only character that has 2 air dashes in the game, which makes her very mobile in the air. So like, she's all about mobility as well, but unlike Chip, who's more about like ground and like kind of being more like cross-ups heavy and stuff, Milia tends to be more like, she's a lot of overheads. Like, she can get into overheads from the ground, which is pretty nuts. Like, if she uses that, I believe it's a command normal. And then there's Ino, overhead for days, right? She's the only character in the game that doesn't have a forward dash or a run. Instead, she actually glides and flies into the sky. Again, very cool, very unique. And that's what I want to talk about with the characters. It's all about quality over quantity. Every character is cool. Like, gameplay-wise, if you come into this game, you should be able to find a character that's fun. You should. You just should. Because there are just so many characters, and they're all pretty uniquely their own, that you will be able to find one. For me, it was Faust. Like, you know, even if people say he's trash, it doesn't even matter if they say your character's trash. If you love playing that character, you should just play that character. So for me, like, I love playing Faust. I love throwing items in the air, seeing people panic over a banana peel or like a bomb. You know, I love teleporting across the map, even if it's not the greatest teleport in the world. I like being able to hit you from like near full screen. There's a lot of good things. But I also want to talk, you know, because from a gameplay perspective, the characters are great. I love them. They're pretty solid. It is a very solid starting cast. But let's talk about aesthetics. The characters' designs, well, let's talk about visuals overall of the game, and we'll talk about characters first. So the character design is great. The visuals make that even greater. Not only does the design look good, in my opinion, like, they changed a lot of the design, but they kind of kept some of it, right? Like, Kai looks more casual, for example. Like, before, like, in the previous one, he looked like a noble knight, you know? Like, he had, like, this nice, I don't even know how to explain it. But, like, he had, like, a cape. He had, like, he had a nice cape. I think his cape now is, like, his jacket, basically, in Strive. I don't know, he looked very majestically noble. And now he looks pretty, like, casual noble, you know? But yeah, there's even that. There's, like, you know, Giovanna, again, like I talked about before. Their design looks great. Secret Service agent in suspenders looks awesome. Milia, like, somehow, you know, like, Milia, like, she's wearing, like, a full-blown winter Russian jacket or whatever, and she looks graceful and beautiful as hell, you know? Like, she looks fantastic. The visuals, God, they look amazing. Just the gameplay in general, like, the graphics are also amazing, right? You know, it's funny because, like, when Guilty Gear Revelator 2 came out, people were like, man, this game looks amazing. Like, it's the best looking fighting game of all time. And then Dragon Ball FighterZ came out, and then people were like, man, this game looks amazing. It's the best looking fighting game of all time. And now Strive has come out. It's the exact same thing. People are like, man, this game looks amazing. This is like the best looking fighting game of all time. It's just so funny. Because, like, every time, because I played all those games, by the way, but, like, every time I play, like, a new game, I'm just like, dude, like, this game looks great. And I go to the next one. Man, it looks even better. And I keep thinking that, like, they can't possibly make it look any better. And then Strive just, like, slapped me in the face and just said, son, please, we haven't even shown you what we can do yet. And they just make it even better. And it's just, it's awesome, okay? It's awesome. But yeah, like, you know, just look into even just look at the trailer of Guilty Gear Strive, you'll be able to see that, yes, the graphics really are just that amazing. They are just stunningly beautiful to look at. And, you know, I don't know, I can't even talk about it anymore. Like, there's just no words for it. The graphics are just really, really good. Okay, so let's talk about music, right? So, the music, I personally just like it. It's just good, you know? I know some people don't like having vocals in their fighting game tracks. I think it's fine, because usually I'm not even paying attention, because I'm too busy trying to fight people. But, like, listening to the actual soundtrack, I like it. There are obviously, like, I have my favorites. My most favorite is probably Chip's theme, right? Play the Hero. That was, like, the best theme. I do like May's theme, Disaster of Passion. I love it too. So I know some people don't, but I like that one too. Kai's theme is also pretty great. I like Souls as well. Souls is pretty good. Smell of the Game. I mean, that one was like the first. That was like the first OST released when they were talking about Guilty Gear Strive, and like I've loved that ever since. So yeah, I like it all. But I think one of the best things about Guilty Gear Strive is that it actually allows you to fish for previous games' music. So like if you like the music from previous titles of Guilty Gear, you can actually fish it up. So what is fishing? In case you might be wondering, basically when you like level up or like you gain you can gain in-game currency, like I forget what it's called. We'll just call it money. So you can gain like in-game money, right? To fish with. To my knowledge, you can't buy that money. You have to earn it by like leveling up or something online. But like you gain that money and then you can use it to fish. And when you fish, you get like a bunch of stuff. So like you can get like design concept art. I believe so anyways. You can get music, which is what I'm talking about. And you can also get like things for your avatar, which I'll talk about later. But like, I think that's really cool because there are some games, like I love Dizzy's theme from Revelator 2. one of my favorite themes of all time. I would love to have that. I haven't been able to fish it out yet, but I'm hoping to in the future. But like, not only is Strive's bass music good, but the fact that it lets you get the previous title's music as well just like knocks it out of the park, you know? It satisfies both like newer players or like the current players, right? Because the music is already good. And then if you're an OG or like a veteran Guilty Gear player, it'll also satisfy you because there will be like soundtracks that you can fish out of. Now you might be angry because you have to fish it, but you know what? Like, just be happy, all right? Just be happy. That's what I'm saying. All right. All right, so let's go on to story. So here's the thing about the story. So the story is basically just like an anime or like a giant movie. So it's episodic. I think there's 9 episodes, I think, if I recall correctly. It's about 4 hours long. And it's basically you just sit here and you just watch it. And it's like watching an animated movie. The animations, in my opinion, are good. I like them a lot. And honestly, the story itself, I do actually enjoy. It basically kind of like ties in. It kind of like ties up a lot of the characters' like arcs. The main character, Soul Bad Guy. The main character, like his arc kind of gets wrapped up because they decided for Strive that this was going to be like the final game for Soul, where he's the main character, right? I'm sure Soul will appear like in future Guilty Gear titles, but like at least for like him being the main character and for focusing on his story, Strive is supposed to be like the end of that, which they did. They basically wrapped up his story. But I like the story. Like I like the characters in it. For me, story is very important. Now, I know it's a fighting game, and some people, like I have a friend who just doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care about the lore at all. He just wants to play the character, and he's more, he looks more at the mechanics of the character and not the lore behind them. I'm not like that. I like the mechanics of the character, but I also need to know the lore behind the character too. Because I want to know. Like, Faust is cool because he's like, he not only is his gameplay cool, but he's also like a doctor that tries to heal people, but he's like fighting like his inner demons because he's like a psycho or something. You know, it's kind of weird. It's hard to explain, and I'm not going to explain it right now. But like, he's cool. Or like, there's like things like Chip, the ninja guy. He's not even Japanese, you know? He's like some American weeb, basically. Like, I think he was like a druggie, and then he got taken in by like his sensei, and he cleaned up his act, and then basically he just became like a weeb who fell in love with ninjas and stuff, and decided to like fight like a ninja. And like, you know, because he's saying things like sukiyaki and stuff during his rekkas, which makes like no sense, you know? So like for me, lore is important, and the story does give me a lot of that. So like when I was watching the story, like I kind of wanted to like play as, what's it called? Like playing as Soul, like you feel like it feels good, right? Because you know the story behind Soul. Anyways, my point is that the story is good. Let's talk about the online. And I think this is basically like the final section that I'm going to talk about. So here's the thing. Let's talk about the visuals first, because let's get that out of the way. Pixel graphics or pixel visuals for the in-game lobby, right? A lot of people didn't like that. People complained about it during the closed betas. I know that for sure. People were complaining about that during the open beta. I actually am fine with it. I like it, actually. I play a lot of games that have pixel graphics. So like for me, it's not actually a big deal. Like, I like it. And a lot of the reason I like it is because of the avatar customization. I like the customizations of my avatar. Like, right now I have like a pink Faust head with like a pink shirt with a heart on it, and I have a champion belt, and I'm wearing slippers. And you know, you can do stuff like that, or you can go more classy. Like, I had a guy in a tuxedo with the top hat, you know? But like I like that customization for my avatars. So for me, I like it. The in-game lobby itself though, like with the dual stations, first of all, yes, I agree. Open beta was horrific. Terribly so. Because you would have to like you would go to like a spot, I think, and then you would teleport somewhere randomly on the map, and then they would have, your friend or whoever wanted to fight you would have to try to find you, and it was a disaster. Now they have dual stations. Dual stations at least make it easier, and they're not having you teleport. So yeah, I think it's fine, right? For what it is, I think it's fine. But what I do want to talk about, which I do think is probably, so if you're a casual, I want you to listen up for sure. Because this is probably one of the most important things that I can tell you that Guilty Gear Strive does extremely well. And it is the lobby floor system. So what is the lobby floor system? So I mentioned it earlier when I was talking about myself, where I usually reside on the 9th floor. In Guilty Gear Strive, when you're playing, like, not like the park, which is like just a place where casuals, not even casuals, I'm sorry, it shouldn't be just casuals, where anybody can just go in there and just like fight people, right? But it's casual in the sense that, like, you know, it doesn't affect your ranking or anything. Whereas the floors is like your rank. But honestly, it's not even like, it shouldn't be looked at as like as a ranking system, really, because it's not really a ranking system, it's a matchmaking system. Because there are 10 floors, and each floor basically tells you what skill level you're at. And honestly, it's pretty on point, if I have to be honest about it. So when I played the game, I was delegated to the 6th floor, and it feels like people are around my same power level. And then as I got better, I increased in rank, and I was able to move to the other floors. So like when I was good at 6, you know, I won too many times, so they moved me up to 7th. And that is probably the most important thing that I talked about right there, is the fact that you actually upgrade floors, and you cannot go down ever. Unless you get beaten to a pulp too many times, then they'll tell you that you can go back down a floor. So like if I'm on the 6th floor and I win too many times and I get upgraded to 7, I can't go back to the 6th floor. And that's awesome, because that means that it prevents people from pub stomping. So what's like pub stomping? It means like stronger players just beating up weaker players because they're better than them and they get a good feeling out of it. You know, those people are terrible, right? And like, don't get me wrong, like, it's not like everyone does it on purpose. A lot of times it's because of matchmaking, but Guilty Gear basically solves that problem with the floor system. Because you cannot go down, it means that like all the higher tiered players, is it tiered players? You know, all the higher level players or the better players, they're constantly staying towards the top. And like, so like for me, for example, right, like I usually am around 8 to 9 to 10. Right? I've gone up to 10 and I've gone down to 8, but like I haven't gone back down to 6 since like the first week when I started. Like 3rd week going in now, like I haven't gone down to the 6th one. Like I just haven't. Like I haven't touched 6 ever again. And it's because like my skill level isn't there anymore, because I've upgraded my skill level. So that's the thing, right? The lobby floor system is actually amazing. And if you're a casual person and you're going online and you're thinking, man, I don't want to get I don't want to get destroyed, you really don't have to worry that much. Don't get me wrong. If you're coming in fresh, you're going to get your butt whooped no matter what, because you're coming in fresh, right? And like, it's just, but like once you like kind of start learning a bit more, like guaranteed you're probably going to lose like your first maybe 10 matches if you're like brand new to fighting games. But like eventually you're going to start winning. And you're going to be put into a place where you're with other people that are of similar level. And that's what's great, because the matchmaking is actually pretty solid in this game. But also, you know, you have the power to say no. You can reject matches as well. Like if there's a certain character you hate fighting, you know, I fight whoever I fight, right? Because like I have the fighting game player mindset where like I will fight anyone and everyone, you know? Like victory or death, right? Like I'm willing to fight anyone and everyone, even if you're annoying, like the character's annoying. Like I get great joy when I can overcome those trials. But I'm not you, right? Maybe you just want to come in and you just want to fight and you don't want to deal with these annoying chips that are like crossing you up for days, you know? So like, you know, if you have a chip player come to you, just reject them and just wait for someone else to come along. And that's fine. So the matchmaking, the floor system, I really think it's really, really well done. And, you know, I applaud Strive for doing that, because that is a big problem that not like Guilty Gear has, that fighting games in general have. They're terrible in the sense that their matchmaking, sometimes it's not on point. Like I've played plenty of fighting games where I'm just matched up against someone who's clearly superior to me, and I just get absolutely wrecked. Like, there's just nothing I can really do. right? And yeah, I get it. People tell you, oh, you know what? Suck it up, Buttercup, you know? But I'm like, that's not the point, right? I'm not going on here to get destroyed. I'm going on here to try to learn, to try to get better. And, you know, it's not fun if I'm just going on there and getting wrecked because you're clearly better than me, right? Because you're like at the pro level and I'm a novice, right? It's like telling, I don't know any sports people. I was going to make like a sports reference, but like, you know, it's like if you never fought in your life and you went up against like Bruce Lee, you know, like clearly you're going to lose, right? Bruce Lee's in a league way above yours, you know, like back in the day, right? But yeah, anyways, that's my point. So the log floor system, great. But let's talk about netcode, because that's probably one of the most important things, and I saved it for last on purpose. Rollback netcode. It is basically mandatory for any fighting game in this day and age to succeed properly. Because here's the thing. So for those of you that don't know, there are basically two types of netcode, and I will try my best to explain it because I'm not like a master technician, you know. But there's basically like delay-based netcode and there's rollback netcode. So delay-based means that it's like my internet versus your internet, and then like the system's gonna like try to sync us together, which is why you get like, for example, like 5 frames delay, right? So that's like when you punch and then like 5 frames later it'll come out, right? A lot of people in the West complain about delay-based netcode, and for good reason, because it doesn't really work in the West. Now, Japan doesn't really have that problem, because there's so many in Japan and they're so close together. Their delay-based netcode generally, like, I'm not a Japanese, so I can't speak for them, or like I don't live in Japan, but like generally speaking, it'll work out for them. That doesn't really happen for us in the West, right? Because we're so far apart from each other and we're not as like consolidated or compact as they are in Japan, we have that problem. Now, there is one company specifically that knows this, and it's called NetherRealm Studios. Those are the creators of Mortal Kombat and the Injustice fighting game series. Those guys always have rollback netcode, and that's why they have strong communities online. And that's the important thing about Guilty Gear Strive. Guilty Gear Strive has the best rollback netcode, or like just online fighting game netcode in general, of like any fighting game to date, pretty much. And the proof of this is in the fact that mine is Wi-Fi. Now, you might be asking, why is mine Wi-Fi? Well, it's just because of my circumstances, right? Like, because of my circumstances, it's hard for me to get like an Ethernet cord into my PS4 and connect it to my router, just based on the positioning of it. But the point is that even though I play on Wi-Fi, I don't get any like lag or like any issues really. And, you know, I thought like, okay, well, maybe like I'm not getting it, but what if my opponents are getting it? No, I've fought my friends and, you know, they're not getting it either. So yes, the rollback netcode is just that godlike. And that is both healthy for new players as well as for veterans, because that's not a veteran or a casual thing. That's a player thing. We all want good netcode. And one of the most important things that Guilty Gear Strive has done is given us godlike netcode. And I'm hoping that it stays godlike for like the rest of its time. Like, I'm hoping this isn't like it's just for the first couple of months to get players to play our game. No, I'm hoping it stays here for like life, you know? So yes, the rollback netcode, it's just godlike and it's just awesome. And it's definitely one of the things I love the most, because it lets me actually play the fighting game as if it was offline. Like, there's only a couple times where like maybe it'll drop, but even then it's still pretty good. So yeah, that's probably the last thing. But okay, so that's the end of it. That's pretty much all I can think of. And you know, I've been talking for quite a while about how much I love Guilty Gear Strive. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's go into the question of the day. So question of the day: what do you love the most about Guilty Gear Strive? So send me your reply on Twitter at GameFluffPod. And yeah, let me know what is the thing that you love the most about Guilty Gear Strive, because I do want to know. Now, please tell me only one thing, not like what I did here, where I told you like a million things. So for me, I'll tell you what I love the most personally is it's got to be the Roman cancels, right? I would say characters are definitely up there too, but I think it is the Roman cancels. It's the thing that like gels the game together and makes it amazing. Makes the fighting as good as it is. It gives you diversity, gives you uniqueness. It is simply an amazing system. So that's what I love the most. I hope you guys had a good time hearing me gush about Guilty Gear Strive. And thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.